Welcome to Uncovered Crime, where the most unsettling truths are laid bare, piece by piece. Some stories don't begin with a scream or a shadow in the night. They start quietly, innocently, with the kind of moment we all take for granted: a husband, his trusted friend, a simple ride home. No one could have predicted that what followed would unravel bonds of trust, shake a marriage, and draw detectives into a case that was as heartbreaking as it was disturbing. When investigators first sat down in that small interview room, they expected another routine questioning. The woman sitting across from them, let's call her Nicole, tired, nervous, but not unusual for someone being asked about her private life. Her hands fidgeted, her voice carried a mix of fear and defensiveness. And at first, her story seemed almost ordinary. She spoke about her husband, about the pressures at home, and about his friend, the one who had stepped in to offer her a ride that day. But detectives have a way of hearing things differently. What sounds ordinary to most can sound suspicious to trained ears. And as Nicole talked, something didn't add up. The more she tried to explain, the more tangled her answers became. She began with the small details. The afternoon was warm. Her husband had been at work, and his friend, someone she'd known for years, someone she trusted, offered to drive her home. It should have been nothing more than a kind gesture, but Nicole admitted that during the ride she noticed the way he looked at her longer than usual, almost searching for something. And she confessed that it made her uneasy, but she brushed it off. Detectives leaned in, asking her to slow down. What exactly did she mean by uneasy? Nicole hesitated, her eyes darting to the floor. She said he started complimenting her in a way he never had before. His tone was different. His words carried weight, like there was more behind them than just politeness. The ride ended at her doorstep. That should have been it. But according to Nicole, he followed her inside when she invited him in for a drink. Something casual she claimed was innocent. Detectives exchanged glances. Why would she invite him in if she already felt uncomfortable? Nicole's answer was quiet, almost apologetic. She said she didn't want to seem rude. She thought she was overthinking his behavior. But inside that house, things shifted. Nicole's account began to stumble. She said he sat close, too close. He kept finding reasons to brush against her, to touch her arm, her shoulder. She insisted she didn't want it, that she froze, that she didn't know how to react. And then her voice dropped when she admitted that what happened next wasn't something she had expected or wanted. The room grew heavier. Detectives asked her to be specific, to say it clearly. Nicole's hands shook as she admitted that her husband's friend crossed the line, and she didn't stop him. Now, the case was no longer simple. It wasn't just about a ride home anymore. It was about betrayal, consent, silence, and the choices people make in moments that change everything. Nicole tried to explain her silence. She said she felt trapped by fear, by confusion, by the weight of loyalty to her husband. How could she tell him? How could she explain that his friend, the man he trusted, had put her in such a position? She told detectives she didn't want to break her marriage apart. She thought keeping quiet would make it go away. But secrets have a way of surfacing, and this one did. Her husband noticed the change in her, the distance, the unease. When he pressed her, Nicole cracked. The truth spilled out, messy and incomplete, and the fallout was immediate. Her husband, furious and heartbroken, confronted his friend. The confrontation didn't go quietly. Accusations flew. Denials followed. And soon, What began as whispers in a living room exploded into a case that detectives now had to untangle. In the interview room, Nicole's words became more desperate. She wanted the detectives to believe her, to see her not as someone complicit, but as someone caught in a situation she didn't know how to escape. But investigators pressed harder. They wanted details. Every word, every moment. They needed to understand, had she really been powerless, or had she made choices she was now regretting? The truth in cases like this is never simple. It's tangled in human emotions, fear, shame, guilt, desire, denial. Nicole's story wasn't just about one afternoon. It was about years of trust that had been broken in a single moment. About a marriage that now stood on fragile ground. About a friend who had crossed an unforgivable boundary. Detectives weighed her words carefully. They listened not just to what she said, but to how she said it. The pauses, the cracks in her voice, the contradictions. And while Nicole wanted this to end, they knew it was only beginning. Because once trust is shattered, once betrayal is laid bare, the damage ripples out through marriages, friendships, families. Nicole's husband was left with questions that had no easy answers. Could he ever look at his wife the same way again? Could he ever trust his friend? Could he forgive either of them? The investigators knew those were questions no courtroom could fully resolve. They belonged to the private battlefield of the heart in the end. Nicole's case was less about law and more about truth, the kind of truth people don't want to admit, the kind that eats away at the edges of a life until everything feels uncertain. A ride home, a moment of weakness, a silence that lasted too long. These were the pieces of a story that left a marriage in ruins, a friendship destroyed, and detectives staring at yet another reminder that sometimes the worst betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the people you thought you knew best. And that is why we tell these stories, not to sensationalize, not to judge, but to show that in every corner of life, even the quiet ones, lies the potential for choices that change everything. This was the case of Nicole, her husband, and the friend who crossed the line. And it all began with something as ordinary as a ride home. Outro. You've been listening to Uncovered Crime. If this story gripped you, make sure to subscribe, share your thoughts below, and join us as we continue uncovering the hidden truths that lie just beneath the surface of everyday life. Because sometimes the most shocking stories are the ones closest to home.